Alright, what's up everybody, back with another edition of Everyday Hoops. Hope you guys are having a good one. Today is another episode of the Look In series, and this one on the Atlanta Hawks after they're eliminated yesterday by the Boston Celtics in the first round. And there's a lot of stuff to talk about with this Hawks team. If you missed any of the other Look In episodes, play us on my channel, go back and watch them. We did one about the Bucks earlier today. Yesterday we did some on the Timberwolves and the Cavaliers. And there's going to be two more coming in the next few days, depending on how the two first round series that are still left play out. But very excited for this one. Thank you guys for the views on the videos and the shorts recently. Really appreciate it. If you like the content, consider subscribing, like, turn notifications, do stuff like that. I really appreciate it. It really helps out a lot. And yeah, I don't want to waste any more of your time. So let's get right into it. The Atlanta Hawks had a very interesting season. Before this season, they made a huge trade in the offseason, going to get DeJounte Murray from the Spurs, just coming off his first All-Star appearance. They go out and make a big trade to get him, give up some picks to acquire him and pair him with Trae Young in the backcourt to have an All-Star backcourt. Doing this because a few years ago they made these conference finals. Last year they lose in the first round to the Miami Heat, and so they need reinforcements. They're trying to make that next step, that push up, and they thought DeJounte would be big in doing so, and a lot of people were very high. Well, maybe not very, very high, but there's a lot of hope and promise to this Atlanta Hawk team. And then they go through the year, and it's just the first half of the year was very average, to say. Like, honestly, they're probably the most average team in the league this year. Like, they never went out any big winning streaks or losing streaks. They're just kind of around 500 for a lot of the season. Nate McMillan, a lot of things coming out about him. He had an incident with Trae Young where Trae Young didn't show up to a home game when he didn't play, and people telling Nick McMillan told him to go home and all this stuff. And then some more stuff coming about Nate McMillan, how like people in the locker room weren't really messing with him, and he even came out and said there's some stuff about like retirement and him leaving the Hawks. It was just a whole thing, drama. And then they have the whole John Collins, where John Collins was gonna get traded, but then nothing happened, and trying to figure out how Trae and DeJounte would work together. Nate McMillan ends up leaving the Hawks. They part ways. After 59 games, they go 29-30. Joe Prunty, the assistant, comes in and coaches 2 games. And then they get Quinn Snyder, who was just sitting at home after leaving the Utah Jazz job last season. He was just sitting at home, and all of a sudden, he's coming in and coaching the Atlanta Hawks. And the Hawks kind of limp their way into the play-in as the 8th seed at 41-41. Get to the play-in. First game against Miami Heat, they win that game, so they jump up to be the 7th seed. Play the Boston Celtics, and they lose in 6. Honestly, they made the series a lot more competitive than I thought. I thought this was going to be a sweep, at most 5. But Trae Young and the guys really brought the Celtics to as much as they could. Lost in 6. And the Hawks are a very interesting team for me, because I don't know what direction I want to go with this. Because let's get into the individual players first before I talk about the team as a whole. First, we're going to start off with, of course, Trae Young. A lot of stuff, a lot of different conversations about him this season. A lot of talks about him, if he can be your star player to a team, if he's of a caliber of a point guard that we thought he was, that we've seen from him in the past few years, and how he can work with a co-star like a DeJounte Murray or another co-star, where if doesn't have the ball in his hands, he's not really doing much, and then defensively, we know that story on defense, but I mean, he still had a pretty decent season. I mean, statistically, it was crazy. He averaged 26, 3, and 10 assists. He shot 43% of the field, 33% from 3. Very bad efficiency shooting year for Trae Young. He also takes a lot of shots. And then the stuff coming out about the Hawks potentially moving on from Trae Young. It was reported that the ownership kind of gave the green light to the GM, like, hey, if you want to trade anybody, that includes Trae Young, whatever to make this team better, go for it. So a lot of people were speculating maybe the Hawks aren't fully sold on Trae being the guy, and a lot of stuff about Trae Young, but I don't see a trade coming for Trae Young yet. I think he can be the guy. It's just he has to learn new things. He's never played with a guy like DeJounte, a backcourt man that's going to take the ball out of his hands, that also needs the ball, that also needs to score and pass as well. Because right from day one, he came in as the 5th overall pick and was kind of like, all right, Trae Young, here you go. Like, starting, you're the guy we're building around, let's do it. So Trae never had that period of like, all right, he was come off the bench or he had to defer to somebody and then eventually became the guy. Like, he just kind of came right in and became the focal point, the franchise piece. Because at that point, who was he going to defer to? Kent Bazemore and Torian Prince? Like, there's no one to defer to. We didn't have another star, so it was like, all right, Trae, go out there and do it. So he never really had that period of like having to grow into like becoming the guy. He was just kind of the guy right away. So definitely has to learn that. Definitely has to learn how to do more off ball, because I think he could be a very big on ball threat, or off ball threat, I should say. We know how great he is of a shooter. Even though the percentages are kind of weird this season, it's also because he takes a lot of ones and not a lot of he doesn't get a lot of open 3-point shots. Just say that. He takes a lot of deep ones. So I think him as an off-ball threat would be very good. It's just he's never really had to play without the ball in his hands, so he kind of doesn't know what to do. Like, if DeJounte has the ball, he's just kind of standing on the wing doing nothing. So got to learn that, and just has to learn how to be in a system. Has to learn to be in a system with other guys that need the ball as well. That's a big thing he has to learn. And defensively, I mean, there's not much you can do. He can't grow a few inches. Like, he can't. It's just going to be about effort, honestly, just effort. If he tries, that's as best as we can get out of it. And if he does get killed, even if he does try, it's just like, hey, it is what it is. At least I'm trying out there. The next guy I want to talk about is DeJounte Murray. Brought him in, of course, to be the big piece of this team. He averaged 20.5 points, 5 rebounds, 6 assists, and 1.5 steals. He shot 46% from the field, 34% from 3. Took some big strides in 3-point shooting-wise. Looked a lot better than anything I've seen from DeJounte Murray's career. But it's also kind of a little bit of a growing period for him. Because, again, he's never had a guy. He's played with some star players. He's played with Kawhi Leonard. He's played with LaMarcus when he was good. He played with DeMar DeRozan. And DeJounte's played with some guys, in that Spurs system. And he's played for Greg Popovich. But he's never played with a guy like Trae Young, who has the ball in his hands all the time. Usually with San Antonio, it's a lot of ball movement. It's not one guy taking 30 shots or 25 shots and everyone else just standing on the wing. Now it's like he's with Trae Young, who has had the ball in his hands his entire career. So he's got to learn how to adjust to that. Defensively, who he's going to bring. When Trae Young isn't playing, he's going to come out and be DeJounte and be really good. It's just about the two of them learning how to play with each other and learning how to play in the system is going to be the big factor, obviously. And then the third guy I want to talk about, John Collins. We have to have a little bit of a conversation about him. This season, he averaged 13 points, 6 rebounds, and assists a block. Shot 50% from the field, only 29% from 3. There's a lot about John Collins. He is not playing to the amount of pay he's getting. The Hawks gave him a huge contract after that conference finals run, expecting him to take another step and be really good on both ends. And he hasn't taken that jump. He's kind of been lost in the shuffle, especially this year with Brandon DeJounte, and then with DeAndre Hunter kind of getting better, and Brandon CD. Like, it's just John Collins kind of getting lost in the shuffle. And I feel like ever since John Collins has been in the NBA, there's been trade rumors about John Collins, especially this season. They got to a point where the team was telling John Collins' agent, like, hey, go try to find something because we can't find anything for you. Because teams aren't willing to give John Collins that money because why am I going to pay so much? I'll get the exact numbers. So John Collins, he signed a 5-year, $125 million deal 2 years ago. So the first year of his contract, which is in 2022, $23 million. This season, he got paid $23.5 million. This upcoming year, he's going to get paid $25.3 million. Next year, 2025, he's going to pay $26.5 million. And then he has a player option in 2026 that's for the same amount of money in 2025. So basically, you're paying about $25 million a year for what is John Collins? A third? Is he a third option? I don't know. He's more of he's a really good complimentary role player, big forward that can shoot the three, even though he had a pretty bad shooting year this season. But usually he's a pretty solid 3-point shooter. Definitely athletic. Defensively, he can bring it. But it's like, am I paying 25 mil for a guy that's gonna average what 13, 14 points per game, and not be like maybe not even be one of our top 3 guys? Like, I don't want to pay 25 mil. Like, what team is John Collins gonna go to where, I mean, there's definitely some opportunities he can go there and have a bigger role, but it's just how successful other teams are gonna be. I mean, of course, he was probably the second best player on that team going to the conference finals a few years ago, but we're like 3 years removed from that now, almost 3 years removed from that, and he hasn't showed any flashes of being like how he was during that run. So it's very tough. Like, honestly, I feel like the John Collins Atlanta thing has kind of run its course already, and he should be gone. Will he be gone? I'm not going to be surprised if he's not gone. Let's start next year, just because they can't really find anybody to take on 25, 26, and 26 again. And it's a player option that last year, so he's probably going to take, because I don't think he's getting paid 26. If he went free agency right now, he's not getting 26 million. It's very interesting to see, and I think he should be traded. I think the Hawks should find a trade for him. I think just the thing has run its course already, and it's kind of time for him to leave, and maybe him going into another direction, going to another team, can unlock what he was in 2021, which would be great. And then we look at 25 and we're like, okay, justified, kind of, okay, we can see that now. So I think that will be good for both sides. I don't know how they get it done, but maybe there's a team out there. And then some other guys for the Hawks. We got Bogdanovich, who had a pretty injury-plagued season. He only played in 54 games. But in the playoffs, he looked really good. And I really like Bogdanovich. He's a really good player. He averaged 14, 3, and 2. Shot 44% of the field, 40% from 3 in the games that he did play. And in the playoffs, he had some big performances. Clint Capella, typical Clint Capella stuff. 12 and 11 with a block. Shot 65% for the field. He's all over the glass. And then DeAndre Hunter, I think, had a big year as well. I really like DeAndre. I think DeAndre Hunter is one of the more underrated players in the league. Like, he's a wing that can, on offense, can get his own, but also could be a catch-and-shoot guy. And then defensively, he's going to be really good. Even though in the playoffs, he didn't really have a great showing, which kind of messed me up because I was like, dang. I was projecting DeAndre Hunter to be, like, one of the more underrated players, and then he had not a great playoff showing, except for the last game. The last 2 games, he played pretty good. But the first 4 were like, I really like DeAndre Hunter. I like that they paid him. I think he's very good as a wing. Like, it's crazy. You look at this Hawks team on paper, and on paper, this is, like, I love this team just looking at the roster right now. Like, you got Trey, DeJounte, you got DeAndre Hunter, Bogdanovich, John Collins, Clint Capella. And then you got Sadiq Bey, who they brought in. I keep forgetting that Sadiq Bey's Atlanta Hawk. I keep seeing him. I'm like, oh, wait, that's Sadiq Bey. He's a Hawk. Like, that alone should be a playoff team. No questions about it. But just a lot of things that happened this year that kind of made that not true for a lot of the year until the end of the season. I think the second half of the year they kind of started to play a lot better. But I also really love the young players on this team. Onyeka Okongwu stepped up this year and was pretty good. He averaged just under 10 points with 7 rebounds and a block. He shot 63% from the field. With Clint Capella being almost 30, you have Onyeka Okongwu, a young big man that could do a lot of the things Clint Capella can do, and maybe a little bit more. Like, he can rebound, maybe not as great, maybe won't be as great of a rebounder as Clint Capella is, but he could be a pretty good rebounder, and it's another asset to unlock for the Atlanta Hawks. Clint Capella can't do some of the things that Okongwu can do. Okongwu can make some good passes. Okongwu can slide his feet on defense. Okongwu is younger, he can do a lot more things that Capella can. So very interesting to see when they if they move on Capella, when they think Onyeka Okongwu is ready to be the guy, the starting center in Atlanta, because I think that would be really, really good. AJ Griffin, their rookie, he played pretty well this year too when he did play. He averaged just under 9 points, shot 46% of the field, 39% from 3. Didn't get any playoff run, which is very kind of disappointing, and I feel like there's a lot of times where you just sit on the bench, and I'm like, why is he not playing? Like, when he did play, he had a couple game winners. When he did play, like, he shows, like, AJ Griffin can play. AJ Griffin could be a very good NBA player. Already his 3-point shot is pretty good. He's kind of always in the right spot, the right time. Kind of plays that he makes. Like, you can see he could be a good player. I think he should be a rotational regular next season. And then Jalen Johnson as well. Jalen Johnson, kind of the same. He was kind of in and out of the lineup a little bit. His minutes were a little bit up and down. He averaged just 5 points and 4 rebounds, but I saw some moments in the regular season and in the playoffs that like Jalen Johnson can be pretty dang solid. You know, he's a big kind of four that could play both four positions. He's really athletic, can handle the ball a little bit, make some good passes, can dunk defensively side. Like Jalen Johnson with a little bit more reps and more minutes can be pretty good. And also like that they went out and got Quinn Snyder. I think Quinn Snyder's going to be a big factor for this team, and you see it in the playoffs. You see it kind of the regular season. They're kind of starting to adopt his mentality. Quinn Snyder loves kind of the pace and space kind of game. You saw with the Jazz where he was Donovan Mitchell, bunch of shooters. Of course, he had Rudy in there, and now he has Clay Capella in there. But yeah, he has Trey, DeJounte, and a bunch of shooters out there, and I think he can be a big step up for this team. I think he can really bring this team to the next level. But talking about that level, I just want to say I think the Atlanta Hawks are treading down a dangerous path. I honestly feel like the Hawks, the GM and the front office is going to lead this Hawks team to a dangerous path, because I think they got a taste of the conference finals 2 years ago, and they're like, all right, that's the standard now. And I don't think that should be the standard for the Hawks right now. Like, honestly, I feel like if you take that conference finals appearance away, say they don't make that conference finals appearance, they lose in the second round of Philly like they should have. I think we look at this team is a lot different, and we look at this team a lot different from a different eye. They made the DeJounte Murray trade because that conference finals run kind of opened their eyes like, dang, we have this young team. Let's go for it right now. Let's go try everything we can. Let's go get DeJounte. I think if they don't make that conference finals run, a lot of things change. DeJounte Murray isn't on this team. John Collins doesn't make as much money, which means he might be gone from this team, which is a big thing. And I just think a lot of things are different. You look at the kind of perspective of this team differently. We don't look at them as like they made the conference finals. We don't look at them as they're disappointing. I feel like we kind of look at them as like, dang, this is a young team that's really coming up that has some young pieces, because this team is still young. Trae Young is only like 24. DeAndre Hunter's like 25. John Collins is like 25. Saddiq Bey's 23. Okongwu's 22. Jalen Johnson's 21. AJ Griffin's, I don't even know if he's 20 yet. I think he is 20. Like, the core of this team, DeJounte Murray even, who they just got, is like 26, 27. Like, this is still a very, very young team. But I think that conference finals run is kind of messing with the front office's mind. And maybe even Hawks fans a little bit his mind of like, okay, we made it there with this young team. We have to make it back there again. And they're just trying everything they can to pull some strings to make it back to that level, when it's like, I don't think the Hawks need to get to a conference finals yet. Like, I think they're kind of becoming they're going to fail because they overachieved. They overachieved too early. And that is going to be the downfall of this team. And I hope this team doesn't go into a bad direction like that because they overachieved 1 year. And now it's like, all right, we haven't made it there in 3 years. We got to make a big move. And maybe they decide to trade like a Trae Young or a DeAndre Hunter. And then it's like, whoa. Like, why are we doing this? Like, I just don't want them to become a team that they overachieved too early. And now it's in their heads. And now they're like, all right, we got to do everything we can. And they're going to make a bad decision. They're going to make some bad decisions and tear this team down. A young, promising team that I think can be very solid next season. And I just hope this Hawks front office doesn't tear them down and doesn't mess them up just because they did overachieve that 1 year. Yeah, that's it for today. Hope you guys enjoyed. Once again, if you enjoyed the content, consider subscribing, like, turn notifications, also like that. Really appreciate it. Really helps out a lot. If you miss any of the other looking episodes, go watch them. And yeah, I'll see you guys tomorrow.